live on the Chapters Network and the Tan Talk Radio Network.
From the Sunshine State, this is Tampa Bay's Tan Talk.
Once in your life, you find her, someone who turns your heart around, and next thing you know, you're closing down the town. That you can do is fall in love.
Good evening. Welcome to Worth the Price of Admission, and I'm your host, Jill Martin. This show is part of the Chapters Network, and we are live from Tan Talk Radio. You can listen to us at 106.1, 102.3. This is FM 104.3, and AM 1340, AM 1350, and AM 1400. If you have any questions about our show or regarding anything about my late husband, Billy, please call us at 727-441-3000. My guest this evening is the former president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, Jeff Idelson, and his partner, Sony Artisan photographer, Jean Fruth. Together, they have started an amazing nonprofit. It's called Grassroots Baseball. Before they join us, I'd like to begin with some old music photos with my time at Live Nation Entertainment. The first photo this evening is Sting. Sting would come on stage several hours early to the venue in his skivvies when no one was there and privately do yoga on stage. Very unique and peaceful to watch. Only the regular staff was around. An amazing voice, an amazing entertainment. I loved the opportunity to photograph him, and one of my favorite musicians. My second photo this evening is of Kiss. I was so close with my camera to Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. Paul, who you see on the right, just blew me a pic. I thought I was a kid again. The performance on stage was nothing short of a Broadway musical. The makeup, the costumes, the lighting, the entire band loved being photographed. It was a fun show and great access. My third photo is of Brad Paisley. I photographed him several times at our venue through the years. He knows how to engage a crowd. Although a truly great entertainer, he wouldn't allow any separate access for the working press. The normal rule of thumb for all of us is you're allowed to shoot the first 3 songs, no flash, with railed access to the stage or the soundboard, which is usually approximately 50 yards back from the stage. Some bands who remember your etiquette from the last tour would give you thumbs up to stay a little longer. Brad, on the other hand, didn't allow any closed-off access for us to work anytime he came to see us. We were allowed in at the beginning of the second song with the crowd already seated in their fabulous seats, and you literally had to walk over them to do your job. As polite as you tried to be, they weren't very happy. I still managed to get the job done, though. Great concert, and I loved his music. And speaking of photography, you're about to see some real life talent here tonight, and it's worth the price of admission. It's Women's History Month, so ladies first. Jean Fruth is one of 2 of my guests this evening. She is one of the 45 Sony Artisan of Imagery photographers, a partnership with a small collection of visual artists worldwide. Jean is considered one of baseball's premier photographers, a girl after my own heart. At the highest levels of sports, Jean says her true passion is providing a glimpse into the national pastime by telling stories of people and places that are part of the game's landscape with photography grassroots to major league. The past several years, Jean has produced 2 amazingly beautiful photography books portraying the story of her newly co-founded Grassroots Foundation. These pictures will steal your heart. The children, their faces, their elation, their struggle to achieve, heartwarming, gives you goosebumps. With that being said, this is Women's History Month, and I can't think of a better guest chasing her dream to have this evening celebrating Women's History Month. Welcome, Jean.
Oh, so happy to be here. And those beginning photos makes me want to shoot music. Sting.
Yeah,
Incredible. What a beautiful photo of him.
Thank you. It was truly a job, a dream come true.
Wow.
For the folks who don't know what Sony Artisan is, Jean, what does that mean?
It's, with Sony, it's being an ambassador for the brand. I switched to Sony quite a few years ago because of the technology, and you understand this as a photographer, and just the technology and what they were developing just moved so much far ahead, especially for me in sports. And their brand and their way of being just aligns with what I believe in. And you'll appreciate this as well. And because we are in Women's History Month, Sony does a lot for women photographers, and does a lot of support for women, and all kinds of photography. So it's my pleasure to be an ambassador for the brand, and the gear is just second to none.
And how does a photographer get to be that level?
It's just a process. I mean, just shooting with their gear and telling the stories that I was telling, and especially in sports, and they have so much gear that's just for me, cameras that shoot 30 frames per second, which makes me look like a genius because you can capture the peak moment every time. Well, at least you should. I was just, it was just a good combination of connecting with them. And they have a lot of ambassadors on different levels that do different things. And there's social media, and, they have all different kinds of ambassadors. So Sony Artisan of Imagery is just one type of ambassador that they have.
It's quite an honor. It really is.
It's quite an honor, and they are just lovely to work with.
And in 2019, you started a nonprofit called Grassroots Foundation. The goals of that are what?
Well, Grassroots Baseball, after I had a book come out called Grassroots Baseball, Where Legends Begin. And that was stories of baseball around the world. And each chapter opened with a legend who talked about what it was like growing up playing baseball. And after that book came out, I connected with Jeff Idelson. He had just announced his retirement from the Baseball Hall of Fame. And I wanted to give back. I was at a point in my life that giving back is most important. And that's where I'm at now, giving back to the sport I love and giving back to the craft I love. So I spent a lot of time teaching and doing workshops. And so I reached out to Jeff and said, what do you think about growing grassroots baseball into something more, into a not-for-profit, and giving back at the youngest level? And he loved the idea, and lucky for me, he said yes. And so we started our not-for-profit along Route 66, and we spent 3 years having clinics with kids. Each kid got a new Rawlings baseball glove and ball, and Hall of Famers joined us all on Route 66 at minor league ballparks. And
instruction for the kids. I hear
for the kids. It was just such a great beginning. And it's celebrating the sport on the amateur level, and promoting the sport. Kids who play sports have better outcomes in school, better outcomes in health, and better outcomes in life. And of course, our choice is baseball, but really any sport is better than kids staying home and sitting at home playing video games. So it's a healthier outcome. And that's what grassroots baseball is about, is healthier outcomes for kids.
And do you still give clinics and things today?
We don't have any clinics planned yet, because we just started our new grassroots baseball women. And so now we're promoting the women's game. And so we're attending a lot of women's baseball, girls baseball, and we want to promote that game because we think it's important to give more opportunities to girls and women in baseball. So through our promotion, we're hoping to help in any way we can support and grow the game, the women's game and the girls' game.
And so you obviously have a co-founder in Jeff, and you're also a traveling photographer for La Vida Baseball and La Vida Sports. And what is La Vida?
La Vida Baseball tells the story of the Latin player, past, present, future. And as you know, there's such a big portion of Major League Baseball and minor league baseball players from Latin America. And so La Vida Baseball started with the Baseball Hall of Fame. They were their Latino partner. And so they tell the stories of the Latin players. So my job is to travel and tell those stories of Latino players. And it's great for me because I've always loved that part of the game. And I spent a lot of time traveling to the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Curacao, Mexico, and all these places telling those stories. So my connection with
a favorite place that you went to?
Dominican Republic I've been to many times. And of course, you can walk any street in any town and find baseball. And it's just, it's before money and contracts. It's for the joy of baseball. So it's just absolutely my pleasure. And Cuba was probably my most favorite to photograph the amateur game. Just because, you really don't get to see those stories as much. People don't get, giving a glimpse to people into what it's like playing baseball in Cuba. And I traveled all around Cuba telling those stories, and I can't wait to go back.
You're such an amazing photographer. Your pictures are outstanding. Your access is what every professional photographer's dream about. Having done this, obviously myself, I know how hard you work. What was some of your favorite lenses that you shot with at night? That was one of my biggest things, that low light photography before, technology took over.
Oh yeah, it's so true, Jill. I mean, when I started with film cameras, and I was a portrait photographer before I did sports. And I got hired by local papers to shoot high school and college sports. And I was shooting baseball, which was fine during the day, as you know. So here's a beautiful sunshine. But then they sent me to shoot a Friday night lights football game. And I failed miserably because I didn't realize how bad it was. And I had all the wrong gear, and the gear just wasn't there. It was very hard to get these shots, so you look at these photographs from the photographers who came before us, and how hard it was for them to make that picture. And I really have such a deep appreciation for that, because low light is not your friend back in the day with those cameras. Today, I mean, that's, it's another reason why I'm with Sony.
Yes, it is.
Today, you can pump up the ISO as high as you need it to be, and you're not even getting any grain in these photographs. I mean, it's incredible. So same thing for you for concert photography. I'm sure you feel the same.
Absolutely. And all the equipment that you had to carry, and it made, your life a whole lot better.
I did see a glimpse of you with a long lens in the beginning of this show when I was watching. So I saw that you shot with some long glass.
And I think we share a Gitzo monopod, which is one of the best, my best friend ever in the whole wide world. It was a lifesaver many times. Let's see. I had the pleasure of watching some of your videos on YouTube. Very straightforward and to the point. I like that. You covered the Oakland A's, the San Francisco Giants, the 49ers, for over a decade?
Yeah, I'll be shooting 49ers opening night tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, what fun is that?
Yeah.
And how did you receive an invite to Cooperstown to show your work and to help build the archive? What happened there?
A photographer, Brad Mangian, who's probably one of the best baseball photographers out there, he was doing a presentation on the history of baseball photography. He was invited to the National Baseball Hall of Fame to do this presentation. And I was just working on my Latin America work, Cuba and the Dominican Republic. And I was just starting this work, and I was really passionate about it. And he invited me to join him and said, would you like to come and do a presentation on that work? And it was probably one of the first presentations I did. I was very nervous to do something like that. And it was very kind of him. And Brad's a mentor of mine, along with Michael Zagaris, who's the Oakland A's photographer and 49ers photographer. So Brad is the one who invited me to Cooperstown and got things started for me. And then when I had the opportunity to be their traveling photographer, that was because social media was becoming more important in baseball and, of course, in the world. So my job was to photograph the contemporary game and tie it back to history. And what that did for me as a photographer for the first time was teach me how to be a storyteller, teach me how to tell stories, not just take pictures of action. And it was really challenging and tremendous years of growth for me during that time.
Your two books, Route 66 and Where Legends Begin, amazing. There's over 250 photos, striking photos in each one. And like you said, when you first came on, many of the legends would come in and write the beginning, recounting their time, either going through those towns or the memories that they had. Some of the people include Whitey Ford, Johnny Bench, Hank Aaron, Nolan Ryan, Cal Ripken Jr., George Brett, just to name a few. And I'm an RV fan, so that trip down Route 66 had to be a blast. It was just amazing. But why grassroots? Where did that begin?
Grassroots was because everywhere, I mean, where I started when I was shooting portraits and then moved to sports photography, it's where I started. It was grassroots sports, and I was shooting every sport. I particularly loved baseball, and I loved the culture around baseball and the stories around baseball. When I was shooting a little league game, the fans, the parents, the coaches, the intensity. And that became really interesting to me. So then I moved up and, got to shoot at the highest level. But really, the enjoyment of shooting the amateur game, that pure love of the game, before money, before contracts, all of that, that still remains my favorite part of the game. It's the grassroots game. So telling those stories and where it all begins, and everybody playing baseball. And the nice thing about it is when people see that book and they see the pictures in there, it evokes a memory for them. Usually what I get is a story of them playing, a story of their kid playing, their first game, when they got their first autograph signed. And I never tire of the stories.
That's good. The past week, we saw some photographs that you shot of my producer, Anna Samamanu's alma mater, Montclair University, and she loved the photos, and I want to thank you for making her smile.
Oh, those women were great.
Live without our Anna. Right now, we're going to switch to Jeff. My other guest this evening is Jeff Idelson, and Jeff, your resume is quite impressive. Did you play sports as a kid?
I did. I peaked at age 12, though, and moved on to other things.
Yes, I heard you had a great experience there as a center fielder in the Little Leagues, and that was the end of that, right?
It was. I loved baseball growing up, Jill, and it was a part of my DNA. I just realized, like most kids my age, by age 12, handling the curveball wasn't that easy. So I wanted to figure out how I could make a career out of sports since I couldn't play it, and got lucky enough to follow that path.
Boy, didn't you, though? But you were a vendor at Fenway. What did you sell?
Well, pretty much everything, popcorn and ice cream. And in this case, I was selling pennants, I guess. And that was in the, what's that?
And the beer here?
No, well, Fenway is probably one of the only venues in America that doesn't sell beer in the stands, and probably for good reason.
Well, you became an intern in the Red Sox PR department, also producing home games for the Red Sox radio network, serving as a flagship station liaison to the Red Sox primary charity, the Jimmy Fund. In '89, you went off to the rival New York Yankees. In '94, you spent 15 months working for the World Cup USA, charged with staging the '94 Soccer Cup in America, and then the National Baseball Hall of Fame, and now co-founding Grassroots Baseball. I'd like to step back a little bit in time and ask you, was there one job that you've done through your career that is a favorite?
It's hard to say, Jill. I mean, they all had such great moments. When you grow up in Boston, grow up hating the Yankees, you think the whole world is this small little borough of New England. But then getting to work for the Yankees really opened my eyes, and I got to work a little bit with your late husband, Billy. And then, of course, Cooperstown was incredibly special because of all the legends that call that home. And a lot of guys that I ended up working with ended up getting inducted. Jim Rice, Wade Boggs, Goose Gossage, Dave Winfield. So they all added to the mix of an incredible life I've been lucky enough to live. And, of course, Whitey and Yogi, two of my favorites. May they both rest in peace.
Aww. Many people are truly unaware of why someone is picked over another. Can you elaborate on that?
For the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Yeah, it's no different than really any award you can think of. There's a great deal of subjectivity to it. Of course, to make it to Cooperstown, you have to be at the top of the game. You have to be the cream of the crop as a player, manager, umpire, or executive. And those that are there truly belong. And few people realize, Jill, just how difficult it is to make it. Maybe there's about 1% that make it who played the game. So, when you think of someone who's not there that you think should be, there's a good chance they're in the top 2 or 3%. And when you look at managers who had an impact in the game, Billy certainly was there, and he.
Where I'm going with this.
I kind of figured, but he won it.
Family won't speak to me otherwise.
He won everywhere, Jill, and we all know that. And hopefully one day that happens. And even if it doesn't diminish the incredible impact he had on the game and his skill as a really, really critical thinker.
And before I forget, I need to say thank you to you. In researching the both of you before interviewing you tonight, I realized that you had an incredible hand in helping us to bury my husband. And wasn't that right when you came with the Yankees? And we are so incredibly grateful for your participation in that to help it as smooth as it did.
You're welcome, Jill. It was, I've been there about 10 or 11 months and was just like you and everybody else, completely in shock when I got the call on Christmas Day. And from there on, it was like, how do we dignify Billy? How do we give him the best possible send off? And, the church service at St. Patrick's was incredible. There were, I think, 3 times as many people outside the chapel as inside. And then to have the procession up to Valhalla, where he's buried with guys like Ruth and Gehrig. It was a pretty poignant day.
So some people would look at the job that you had and say, it was the greatest job in the world. Why did you leave?
Leave the Yankees?
No, the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Oh, why did I leave the baseball? It was because it was time. I mean, I was ready. I had accomplished a lot that I thought I had wanted to do. And at the same time, Jean had put together this incredible book. And so it sort of was, in some ways, sort of a divine intervention where I was thinking of leaving. And she's like, what do you think about turning this into a not-for-profit? And I love the game. I mean, I love the game to its core. And I thought to myself, after spending decades in major league stadiums and all-star games and World Series, the opportunity to go back and make a difference at high school fields and sandlots and really work with Jean to make a difference was appealing to me. And so it really wasn't a hard choice. I was familiar with her work from having worked at the Hall of Fame, and I'm so glad that I did.
Good. And you're living in San Francisco now.
I am. Yeah, I am. I'm living in San Francisco, and just like in New York, I have 2 teams I can root for.
There we go. And how do we buy your beautiful books? I have 2 of them. I'm so grateful. And hopefully one day I'll get you guys to sign them. Where does someone go to find out about your organization, how they can help, how they can get involved, and buy the books as well?
You want to take that, Jean? Want me to?
Grassrootsbaseball.org.
Okay.
Come visit us at grassrootsbaseball.org, and you can hear about our new women's project, and we update it all the time, the website, and so it's got a lot of information on there. So we'd love people to come visit if they're interested.
And your net proceeds from the book goes to support your nonprofit Grassroots Baseball mission to promote and celebrate the amateur game around the globe with a focal on growing interest and participation at the youngest levels. The pictures of the kids are just to die for. And Jeff, what are some of your thoughts on the rewarding experiences from Grassroots and your plans for Grassroots up and coming?
Oh, the experience has been incredibly rewarding. Getting to, as you know, in an RV, traverse Route 66 and really dovetail through all 8 states and just see how important the game is, not only in big cities like St. Louis and Chicago, but in tiny little towns like Baxter Springs, Kansas, and Amarillo, Texas, and places like that. And the future is bright. We have some this great project of girls and women in baseball on and off the field, past, present, and future around the globe that needs to be told. We want to shine a light on all the girls and women who are making great strides in the game. And we just look to continue to grow the game, to help grow the game, promote the game, and give people a reason to love the game.
And I hear that women are going to play World Cup qualifiers this year.
They are. Yeah, this is the second stage of 2 stages. So Canada hosts one of the qualifiers in August at Thunder Bay, Ontario, 8 teams, and then 8 countries will be in Japan in September. And then from that will emerge 12 finalists who will play the World Cup in the summer of 24.
And Jean, I guess you're going to photograph all that, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is it's the time, the doors have just been blown off the hinges in the past 18 months alone with what women are doing in baseball. First woman playing in minor league baseball to record a hit, Kelsey Whitmore. Rachel Balkovic for the Yankees, managing in minor league baseball. Alyssa Nacken right here in San Francisco, first female coach for a major league baseball team. 20 women last year played college baseball on men's college baseball, women playing on men's college baseball. We're heading in a few days to Brown University, the first woman to play D1 men's college baseball. Olivia Pichardo is there as a freshman. So, I mean, there's just so, and Baseball for All, this organization that's also here in Northern California, they're all over the world now. They're international, but they're so strong here in the United States. And they have all these young girls playing baseball on all different levels. And it's really exciting. This is an exciting time for women in baseball on and off the field.
It sure sounds like it. And Jeff, I have another question for you. If Billy was standing here today, what would you ask him?
What would I ask him? Oh boy, I would ask him, I guess, is there going to be a Billy 7 in New York?
He did have a lifetime contract.
He did. It went on and on, back and forth. But no, I think I would probably try to talk game strategy with him and talk about his great relationship with my dear friend Mickey Morabito and how it was that he got him to go to Oakland with him way back when in 1980.
Yes, he did. He certainly did. He wanted to go back when he got off the plane. It's an honor to have you both on my show tonight. I hope you come back. I wish you great success. I can't wait to see more of your photos, Jean, and meet you personally. And you make us proud to be women.
Oh, thank you. What a pleasure. What a pleasure to be on this show. Keep taking those beautiful pictures, Jill.
Well, you too. And you make me want to be young again. Thank you. All right, you guys. That's a wrap of our show. And I want to thank you for joining us this evening. This has been worth the price of admission. But don't change the station yet. Stay tuned for my buddy Orestes Destrada and his show, The Ozone. See you next week.
Someone who turns your heart around, and next thing you know,